Hello folks and welcome to Paddock Pass, your pre-race edition for the 21st and final Grand Prix of 2019, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Great to be back in Yas Marina, great to be back at this track. We've been hard at work getting interviews for you all day. The sun has gone down, as the sun goes down on this season. We are going to start with the team that normally comes at the end of the show, but we're going to bring them front and centre because the 2020 grid was confirmed this morning. Nicholas Latifi will replace Robert Kubica at Williams next season. Really nice kid, 24 years old, Canadian. First met him 6 years ago at Fiorano when he was banging around in a Ferrari Corsa Clienti car and was being kind of like managed, observed by Anthony Hamilton. What's Anthony Hamilton doing in this Ferrari garage at Fiorano, in the Shell garage, you know, on the track? What are you doing here? So, I'm just advising this kid and blah blah blah, and this little kid, little 18-year-old, jumped out of the car all super excited, and Anthony was like, he's going to be an F1 driver one day, and sure enough, here he is. Nicholas Latifi will be a Williams driver next season, and will be lining up with George Russell, a very young lineup. Claire Williams told us earlier today that she's really excited about having that young driver line up to take the team and try and get them back up the grid again. So exciting times down at Williams. But just the human achievement of Robert Kubica making it back to Formula One, that alone worthy of so much respect and so much admiration, because he is an inspiration. So we're going to hear from a new Formula One driver in 2020, Nicholas Latifi.
It's kind of sinking in bit by bit now. I was explaining earlier, when I first found out that I was wanting to be the driver, kind of sunk in a little bit, and then when the contract was signed, which was a little bit after, and now that it's finally announced, yeah, it's just an amazing feeling, dream come true.
It's been coming for a long time. How happy are you to be with a team that obviously you've got experience with this year, that you've embedded yourself with?
Yeah, I'm extremely happy to be stepping up with Williams. I mean, they're one of the most successful teams in Formula One history, and I think, the fact that, the past years have been a struggle, it's not indicative of, what defines this team. I'm, really looking forward to doing whatever I can next year to help bringing the team back up the running order. For me, stepping in as a rookie, it's always going to have its challenges. I'm not underestimating how difficult it will be. I'm going to have a great reference in George as well. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to whatever I can help motivate the guys. I think the pairing of me and George as well we're going to be good for the morale, the atmosphere, two hungry young drivers pushing the team forward, and I'm just so excited to get to the grid in Melbourne, really.
You two guys are rivals in Formula 2. You've been teammates though this year. How is that relationship, and how much are you looking forward to working with him to push the team forward?
Yeah, so prior to last year, it was the first time I'd ever raced against George. Never been his teammate, so this will be a first next year. But this year, being in the same team was the first, let's say, proper year I've gotten to get to know him a bit better. And we get along really, really well, to be honest. I think we're going to have a good working relationship first and foremost, which is important for the team. But I think as well on a personal level, we get along as well, which will add something else. So he's, as I said, he's one of the most highest rated junior drivers on the grid right now. I'm really looking forward to going up against him. Where we're going to be as a team, it's going to be a bit unknown, let's say, next year. Time will tell. Where I'm going to be stacked up against him at the beginning, again, a bit unknown, time will tell. I'm just looking forward to learning what I can and working with him.
And so to Mercedes. Toto Wolff back at the team this weekend. He took Brazil off. It wasn't the smoothest of weekends. Comments throughout the week from, I think Lewis was the one who sort of said, look, I'm a bit worried about the future. I want Toto to be here and make sure that everything works out for the team. But he did make decisions in that race, drive in a way that he said had taught him quite a lot that he could take into the future, maybe the way in which not to race. Who knows? We're going to hear from the six-time world champion in a minute. Valtteri Bottas talked earlier today, going through a tough time personally at the moment. You will have seen the news. We're not going to dwell on that. That's his personal stuff to deal with. But he does have a sporting issue this weekend, which is that the retirement in Brazil means he's got to have a new power unit. So we will have a grid penalty for the weekend. So, not an easy way to finish the season for Valtteri. So, let's hear from Lewis though. Six-time world champion and one final race in his kind of victory tour here in Abu Dhabi.
Given how close the top three teams seem now, how challenging a winter could this be on the technical front for Mercedes?
I don't think it's going to be any more challenging than the other year. Every year it couldn't be more challenging at the end of every season. The guys are going through the same motions as they have every single year and trying to push for a super high target, which is almost impossible to reach. And so nothing changes for us.
In terms of Red Bull's form, obviously they've won the last Grand Prix. I mean, that was at altitude. Some people are saying maybe that's the reason why they've had this little purple patch. Do you see it that way, or is this more than a strong ending to a year? Is this them looking like they're back as a force again that could start next year very strong?
I really have no idea how it's going to be next year. I mean, generally, often towards the end of the year, they are strong. There are circuits, last year they were quick in Brazil. They were fast here. It's often they are pretty strong towards the end of the year. I don't really know why that's the case. They haven't been starting the seasons off as strong as history has been of the last God knows how many years. They've not started the seasons off stronger than Ferrari or us, for example. But next year could change. You have to expect that could change, and it might be the case. So again, we just focus on doing our job and not worrying about what others do.
Ferrari were the talking point last time out in Brazil, not for the positive reasons they would have wanted, as Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel took each other out of the race. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Always one more to blame than the other. Ultimately, only Mattia Binotto really knows where he apportions the blame, and he will have given the drivers his verdict when they met him at the factory in Maranello during the week. Wanted to talk to both of them today, could only talk to one of them, as Sebastian Vettel isn't in Abu Dhabi yet. He is at home with his good lady wife celebrating the arrival of their third child. So many congratulations to the Vettel family. Lovely news. And of course, as a new father, excused, I think, one day of work. It's fine. We talked to Charles, though, about what was discussed, what was debated, what was agreed, crucially, for the future, because this had been coming for a while. That needle had been rising in the war between the teammates. It's a war that at the moment Charles is leading by 19 points. So Seb, ultimately, if he gets second place and fastest lap, and Charles doesn't finish the race, they'll be level on points, and Charles will still get it because he's got 2 wins to Seb's 1. So Seb basically has to finish this race, and Charles have a horrible race for Seb to finish ahead of Charles. It's been an astonishing first year for Leclerc here at Ferrari. But yes, much to be discussed between himself and Sebastian and Mattia in Italy this week. Let's get Brazil out of the way first and foremost. Obviously, meetings have happened, discussions have taken place. Can you tell us what they were?
I went to the simulator. So on this occasion, we took that day to discuss a little bit, obviously, of the last race. There's been things that we could have done better to give each other just simply more space. When you look back at the crash, the contact is extremely small for the huge consequences it had. So this was a little bit unlucky, but anyway, we need to give each other more space for these things to not happen again.
So you could have moved left, he could have stayed on his line. What was sort of agreed?
Yeah, I think we didn't really took any results about this particular crash, but we most about the whole situation, to give each other more space. Then to come back on the Brazil one, I think Seb shouldn't have moved left, and I probably could have avoided him in a better way. So we've got a little bit of responsibility, both of us.
I think the thing most people will be asking is not just for this race, but moving into next season. Are you guys still free to race? Will you be allowed to fight each other?
I mean, as to Mattia to be sure, but of what I know, I think we can, yes.
Good news. You sit now ahead of Seb in the championship. He's basically got to win this race and you not score points, or score very few points, for that to be reversed. How happy are you with your first season at Ferrari?
I'm extremely happy with my first season, mostly because my only goal was to progress throughout the season, and I think this has been a big success on my side. I can feel it from the first race to now. I've grown a lot as a driver. In qualifying, I've been struggling a lot at the beginning of the year. Now I'm a lot stronger in the race. I've still got a lot of work to do, but I feel stronger than at the beginning of the year, and so it's been a very successful season, and really looking forward for next season with the team.
And there was that moment in Monza, top step of the podium, the whole Tifosi underneath you. Must have been an incredible moment for you. Is that the highlight of your year so far?
Yes, by far. And every time I speak about it, I've got chills. I've got chills. It's crazy. I don't get used to this. I mean, seeing how many thousands of fans there were under the podium yelling my name was just absolutely crazy.
Winner Last time out, Max Verstappen. 3 victories for the season, 3 victories for Red Bull Racing. Helmut Marko, of course, earlier in the year said, let's get 5, we can get 5 wins in 2019. Everyone said, Red Bull with a Honda, 5 wins? You're laughing, mate. And here they are, 3 wins in. Could they get 4th this weekend? 4 out of 5 ain't bad. Actually, 3 out of 5 ain't bad. Really have come on in leaps and bounds. One of the stories of the year. A great win for Verstappen in Brazil and carrying that momentum that the team has shown of late through to the end of the season.
I think overall the season, I think the progression we made also from the Honda side, it's been really good. I think nobody could expect us to, of course, fight for the title straight away. And of course we had our difficulties in the beginning of the season, but I think we learned from it and we definitely improved. And especially the last 3 races now, it seemed like we are a lot more competitive. So that's of course very promising for next year. And of course, putting those 5 race wins out there is also a good motivation for the team, instead of saying, we will not win a race, you know what I mean? So if you make it or not, that's a different thing. You always have to look at the positives as well from the season.
I think one thing that took everybody by surprise was that drag race between Pierre and Lewis down the line, and you see Honda's actually got something pretty serious now. How optimistic does that make you for next season?
Yeah, I think the steps we made throughout the season, they've been very good. I mean, those things are a bit misleading as well, because you have to judge the downforce as well. But it's a good sign. It's better than losing out. Yeah. So, you can see they made big steps, and of course I'm very happy with it.
And how much have you enjoyed this year, leading the team, becoming, more and more a part of what Red Bull is, taking the direction, taking the lead, having all of that responsibility?
Yeah, I think it's been good, but at the end of the day, it's not like I'm doing something different. I always gave my feedback, and I think it is the right feedback. And for me, it was also not really adding any extra pressure. I was just doing what I was supposed to do.
Now, at the top of the show, we were talking about the fact it was the last race, certainly at the moment, for Robert Kubica, another driver who is reaching, at least for now, the end of his Formula One road. Is Nico Hulkenberg arrived in a sea of publicity and expectation nearly a decade ago as the next big thing, just never quite meshed for him, never quite worked out. Yet to get a podium still. Can he do it in his last race for the moment in Formula One? One of the most liked guys in the paddock, will be missed next year, but will he be back in 2021? Are you going to miss this? Not the driving, obviously the talking to us, the Thursdays, the questions.
No comment.
Is this?
That's why I'm only coming back 21, so it's a different format then, isn't it?
Okay, so coming back then. Are we going to see back? I mean, is this? In French, you say it's au revoir. Is this tschüss, or is it auf Wiedersehen?
It's tschüss for now for me. That's what I've said and what I feel. I mean, nobody knows in the future if there's an opportunity or not. I think nobody can foresee the future, but I don't know. But it is fine, and it is what it is now anyways. I can live with it, and we move on.
Are you actually looking forward to a break? Putting your feet up and saying, you know what, I'm not going to think about anything for a while. I'm just going to get back in touch with me for a little bit.
Yes, I do, and I don't. Obviously, it's gonna be a shock, and I've always, since I'm 7, I've been in this racing world environment. Always, aimed for Formula One. So that was from 7. Pretty much it's when you start to think and to memorize stuff. So it's been all my life, and then after that I'm here obviously now for 10 years, and now it's going to be like a break or a cut. So it is going to be a shock to the system, but in a way that's also exciting for me. See how I cope with that, see where my interests goes, and what happens here or maybe not. So it's exciting in itself, that fact.
Will you be coming to some races next year?
To be honest, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I think to begin with I'll stay away for a while. Observe it from the distance, maybe not. I don't have all the perfect answers, but maybe that's also good in that way.
This probably isn't the place for a sort of a deep and meaningful, but when you look back over the F1 career, what's your takeaway? Do you have something that you've taken out of this 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's been a big part of my life. I've taken away 177 races after Sunday. Experienced that, which is only a very small or small number of people in the world that can say that. But no, I grew up in racing, and then in Formula One, when you come in as a young adult, it just, it's a sport, it's a business, it's so many things at once, and to grow up in here, it's quite special and unique. I've learned a lot from a lot of people, made friends. I think friends that I will be friends with beyond the paddock and beyond racing. So a lot that I took from here.
Not being lazy, Steve suggested we sit down to do this link. How does it look? Nice? Good? It's been a long year, isn't it? Been a great year, though, for these guys. We spoke to Lando earlier. He was just full of positivity of the journey that he's been on this year. He's always been incredibly self-critical throughout the season, but he spoke of how that's really helped him to draw the maximum from himself at every weekend. He hasn't sort of got himself depressed over things, but by being very self-critical, he says he's managed to overcome the teams kind of giving him a pat on the back after every race because he's a rookie and going, oh, you did really well, and he's like, yeah, I kind of didn't. So that that introspection, that sort of hypercritical nature that he had allowed him to overcome what he saw as people giving him a bit of an easy time just because he was a rookie. So great stuff from him. Can't wait to see what he does next year. But one of the standout drivers of the season, unquestionably, Carlos Sainz. Last time we spoke to him in Brazil, he wasn't sure if he was going to have a podium or not. As it turned out, he got one of the most special Formula One podiums possibly ever.
To get your first podium, to actually enjoy it with 60, 70 people up there singing, having champagne. I like Max and Pierre, but I actually like my team also to share a podium with, so I enjoyed it a lot.
It was it's completely unique. I don't think a first podium, maybe in F1 history, has ever been celebrated quite in that way.
That's a good statistic. Probably not, I think so. At least I'm the first one to celebrate with my whole team. My first podium.
What does it show, though, about the team spirit, about how far you guys have come this year? What a great result to sign off what's been a brilliant and to many degrees unexpected season.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, we've obviously been many times best of the rest this year, and best of the rest has been P5, P6, P7. On Sunday we were starting last, and we didn't know that Brazil was our big opportunity to get a podium. But somehow, even starting last, we kept fighting, we went through the field, and we ended up finishing third. So it just shows it's been a fight back, but I think very similar to McLaren's story in the last few years. We fight back, we've kept our heads down, and we finally made it to a podium step, and now we want to keep improving and keep working hard.
Speaking of Lando earlier today, he said at the start of the season, Zach had told both you and him, I think we can get fourth in the championship this year. And you and Lando apparently looked at each other and went, let's not spoil his dream. But here you are.
Here we are, podium. I must say Lando behaved like a gentleman the whole day, and he put a smile on his face, even though I'm sure it was not entirely easily, but he was genuinely happy for the team, happy for me, and it's something nice to see. And true gentleman, even if he looks like a kid, from him.
The winter now. Do you have to double the workload going into this? Do you have any time to rest, or is the momentum from this year so positive that you just want to keep working to take it into next year?
I will keep racing and do a double season. Just keep the 2019 going, because I'm enjoying myself. I think you can tell by my smile and by the way things are going. But at the same time, 2020 gives us a chance to make another step in the right direction, and we need to make sure we do it, because we want to keep this trend going up.
What a year, what a story for Toro Rosso, and in particular for Pierre Gasly. Actually, for Danny Kvyat as well. Came back into the sport, talked to him earlier today, and he said, yeah, of course you have these reservations, you have not fear, but a little bit of trepidation of how's it going to be, is it going to work out okay? And for him, it's worked out brilliantly. He became a dad, got a podium. It's been probably his best year in Formula One for Danny Kvyat. For Pierre Gasly, the ups, the downs, it's been a heart-wrenching year for him. He lost his best mate, Antoine Hubert, in Spa the same weekend. That obviously he moved back down to Toro Rosso after things didn't work out at Red Bull Racing. It has been a year that would either have made him or broken him, and I think it's a sign of the guy that I think has made him rather than broken him. We're going to talk to him now. A podium in Brazil, richly deserved, and that animalistic roar from him for almost the entire slowdown lap, reflective of the validation, vindication, of a really worthy driver. You had time to reflect, look back on that crazy race in Brazil. Did it sink in over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I would say so. I had some good days back at home with the family. Actually, straight after the race, I flew back to France and had a nice dinner with my family. My brothers came in Paris, and just to celebrate because no one was there, so they could just enjoy from the TV. And no, it was a really nice couple of days. No, I managed to just relax, recover, and just focus on the last one of the year.
It's been an incredible year. Incredible in the positive and the negative sense, and a very emotional year as well. What did it feel like crossing that line? We've seen the replays, just you and Lewis side by side, just edging. Was it relief? Was it joy? What was the emotion?
I think it was pure joy. You know, it's there is a lot of work going into also all the past years, sacrifices, and you do all these to live these kind of moments, and when it happens, in a way I wasn't kind of ready for it, because going to Toro Rosso I didn't expect we will be able to achieve such a result. And as I crossed the line and I realized, okay, we made it, I just had millions of emotions, thoughts crossing my mind, and just pure happiness. So I think that's why on Monday I didn't realize how much I shout on the radio. So on Monday I've seen a video and then I was like, oh my God, am I crazy?
It's vindication, right? Like, that's got to have been part of it as well, after everything that had been written, spoken about, as you say, in a Toro Rosso, to get a podium, to out-drag the world champion to the line, that feeling of, actually this is me, this is what I do.
You know, that's why, of course, I love motorsport, and that's why I live for motorsport, for these kind of moments and emotions. And it was just incredible. But for me, it was important, after all the things that have been said, as you say, and all the things that happened, to prove my point on the track. You know, you can speak and talk, but there will be no better answer than the results on track. So that's why I try to focus on, since I came back with the team in Spa. Plus, with all the things that happened since I returned in Spa with Antoine, and all the things, was pretty tough season, probably the toughest season I've had. But it was important for me to put everything together and get this result, and especially such a result in Brazil.
And you guys are so close to Renault now in the championship. Is that a goal to catch, to pass them this weekend, or actually, given that it's the most successful championship for the team ever with 2 podiums, will that be enough?
I think, you know, everybody's so excited after what happened in Brazil, but I think it's important we keep our shit together, as we will say, and just try to execute everything perfectly, and let's see what happens. If we get them, that will be amazing. But to outscore Renault by 8 points, I don't think it happened many times this year, and it's not going to be an easy task. So I think we just try to focus on our work. We know if we do the right things, we're probably going to be in good position to score points. And if we manage to get them, that will be cherry on the cake at the end of the year. But first, let's try to focus on the job first.
Our dear departed Niki Lauda once said that we learn more from defeat than from victory. And if that is true, then Haas have learned an awful lot this year. I spoke to Romain Grosjean earlier, who's really looking forward to the winter break, spending time with his family. It's been a rough year for Haas. They have had to learn an awful lot in what's been their most difficult Formula One season to date. That's not to say it had been easy for them in their first couple of years, but certainly that sort of mantle of being the giant killers came to them very, very quickly, and it was all rosy and glorious and happy days, and it's been a little bit of back to earth with a thump for them this year. We're going to catch up with K-Mag right now as he discusses what has been a hard year, but how it has galvanised and brought the team together, and how that can only be a positive for the future. One more to go, and then you can have a nice break and put this one behind you.
Yeah, exactly. So that should be good. I mean, it's been a long season. I think we're all excited to ditch this car and just focus on the next year's car. So yeah, we'll see what we can do this weekend. There's always opportunities. We saw it last weekend that there's always that chance that something can happen. So you got to be ready.
It can't always be positive, though, in any sport. How important has this year been for you and for the team in terms of development, growing, going through the hard times to get back to the good times?
Well, that's it. I mean, sometimes when you take one step back, it enables you to take 2 steps forward, and hopefully, hopefully that's what we will do. Take the experience and the learning that we got this year and use it to come back even stronger next year. So I see the potential in the team, and I see everyone is still motivated, and even more now because they got something to prove. And I can't wait for next year to see where we are.
In many ways, could you see this year then as being a positive experience, something that's galvanised a still young team and brought you all closer?
Yeah, absolutely. And part of the positive thing about being a small, young team is that I think you haven't got all these traditions and ways of doing things. Some of the old teams just have their way of doing things, and it's hard for them to change direction very quickly. And I think for us, that's the agility of the team is probably a strength right now. So yeah, I'm excited.
Now, unfortunately, can't bring you anything from Racing Point today. We had a little bit of a technical glitch, so apologies for that. I can basically fill you on what the drivers said, which is that it's been a difficult season for them and for the team. Essentially in Formula One, nothing happens overnight, nothing is immediate. If you want to look for the basis of an issue as a team, you have to go back 6, sometimes 12, sometimes even 18 months to see where that problem started. And of course for this team, it was in the administration proceedings that befell them in the summer break last year, and they were still really reeling from that over the winter into this season, massively on the back foot. And so both said it's only really next year where we will see the true Racing Point and what they have to offer Formula One. Checo said it's been very frustrating, loved the Mexican Grand Prix. Was, I think, probably certainly his best race this year, maybe one of his best races ever. Lance said he's learnt a lot this year. I asked him what it's like driving in his dad's team, if he'd ever sort of had a proper hiding from his old man. And he said no, because he spends all his time with the engineers and his dad spends most of his time in his office and they don't really see each other. So there you go. Anyway, let's go to Alfa now, where Kimi Räikkönen was in surprisingly chatty mood. It all turned good for them. Kimi had been saying over recent races, look, it's just little mistakes here, little mistakes there. We just need to get everything perfect, and the car's good. We'll get points. Sure enough, double points haul, just off the podium in Brazil last time, their best result of the season, and rich reward. Great motivation for the team going into the winter months.
Yeah, I think for the team it's important, obviously, and everybody's much more happier, and I think at least we are safe from the Haas if some miracle doesn't happen, but we still have a chance, and the team ahead of us, small chance, so we'll try to do another good race here and see what we get. But after the difficult, I think in US we had a good speed. At least we could race in top 10. Obviously we didn't get points, but last race we bought a new front wing, so that seemed to help a little bit. And all the things, we just put it together a bit nicer, and no mistakes in qualifying, at least big mistakes. So. Well, obviously it's a bit too late, but we'll keep learning and try to improve.
Too late for this year, maybe, but you know how important morale is for a team. How important is that springboard for Alfa to go into the winter with that positivity?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, there's still one race to go, so we'll try to do a good job here. And but it's much nicer to get some good results, because I think they all deserve it, and not been the easiest. Got a few races there, so. For many different reasons, but I think we can learn from those, and I'm sure in the future it will help us.
How do you reflect on this year with Alfa?
Hard to say. I didn't really have big, not expectation, but I didn't have like a goal that I need to be here or there. We always try to make a good result, and in many ways it's disappointing that we had such a long time difficulties, but it's part of racing, and I'm more sad for the team's position where we end up in the championship. But I made some mistakes. I could have done things better. Obviously, it could have become much more worse also. So life goes on and we'll try again next year.
And that, folks, is that. That is your lot from Paddock Pass here in Abu Dhabi. One final race of the year under the lights here at Yas Marina. We arrived here in Abu Dhabi with sad news. Some good friends of the sport who passed away. Gary Rhodes, big Formula One fan, one of the first sort of major sort of celebrity chefs. Actually had Gary Rhodes Motorsport, was always a visitor, a keen fan of the sport, usually down at Jordan, and was just a lovely chap. Was actually living out in Dubai, and our thoughts are with his family. A huge one though for the Formula One community, Clive James, who was a brilliant writer, poet, comedian. For those of us of a certain age, the voice of Formula One season reviews throughout the 1980s, had a beautifully dry, innocent. He wasn't nasty in his comedy. It was beautiful, pure comedy. I was watching some of his season reviews. He managed to pull together a brilliant season preview in 1997, where he got pretty much all the active drivers, even Michael Schumacher, to sort of do a phone-in video from testing it. It must have been at Fiorano, and only Clive James could have pulled that kind of thing together. It was amazing. And I was watching a ton of his stuff last night, and something he said at the end of that really sort of held true. And I'm going to read it to you, so forgive me for reading it out, but I have neither Clive James's wit nor recall. And it kind of struck me as what we've tried to do with Paddock Pass, and I hope you kind of agree. And this came almost 20 years ago, well, over 20 years ago now. He said, Formula One, in becoming a world of its own, has tended to lose itself as a community, and the pressure of secret business has isolated people who belong together. I hope we've helped to start something new, or perhaps restore something old. The spirit in which Grand Prix racing first came to be, as a joust between young men with spare energy. A movable feast, a carnival on tour, a high-speed but gallant game for the brave and the bright. Inside the helmets are faces, personalities. As I hope we've shown, it would be good all round if we could get to know them better. A dream, you might say, but then this whole thing is a dream anyway. Clive James certainly had a way with words and will be very much missed. That's your lot, folks. See you next time.